So my name is Audrey. I'm a part-time sorter, unloader in local 177 in North Jersey. Welcome to our second Vote No webinar. This is being led by Teamsters Mobilize, which is a group that got started last year, organizing in particular around part-time demands for this contract, including the fight for 25 an hour to be the base wage for part-timers, but has since grown to be a group made up of Teamsters across classifications, across areas, fighting for the demands of all UPS Teamsters in this contract fight. And we're here because we all agree that this is not the contract that we need and that we need to fight for. And, you know, this contract does have concessions in it. I'm not sure if people have probably been following what the IBT is putting out right now, but they're saying that there's no concessions in this contract, and anyone who says that there are is a liar. So, you know, they know that people are upset and that we know that we can and we absolutely have to fight for more. You know, this contract affects all of our lives for the next 5 years. And more broadly, it affects our lives, you know, and this is a fight that we need to take up. And all of us here who are going to speak, and I think, you know, people can speak in the town hall portion, we're not afraid to stand up to whoever we have to stand up to. Obviously, UPS is trying to push this tentative contract, saying it's a win-win-win, it's great. And so is the IBT. We've seen that across all of our locals, that the vast majority of leadership is pushing an adamant yes vote and trying to silence people who are saying, no, we're going to vote no, and we are going to fight for more. But we know that we're right. You know, we know that we're right to fight for more, that we don't just have to accept a little bit better than the previous contract. That, yeah, we can acknowledge there are some gains here, but we also know we can fight for much more, and that there are major concessions in this contract as well, which we did talk about a good deal last week. If people haven't had a chance to check out the recording of that, that's on the Teamsters Mobilize website. Maybe I will call on some of my fellow Teamsters Mobilize members to drop a link in the chat to our Vote No campaign site. There's a lot of information on there. We have a document that is called Contract Issues, or changing the contract, of what we see as the major issues as of kind of a week ago when the TA first came out. We also have a survey that we're asking everyone here to fill out, and if you could please share it as widely as possible, because we want to bring together as many ideas as we can of all UPS workers across the country about what needs to change with this contract, and have a unified proposal to put forward in the event that hopefully we are able to vote this thing down. We are also going to have a organizing meeting to actually talk a little bit more about the Vote No organizing, how it's going, be able to work together nationally more this Tuesday evening. So yeah, please, if you can just leave your email on the Vote No website, there's the survey, and then we'll be sure to get that information to you. And I think, you know, this contract is important for us as UPS workers, but it is also important for the larger labor movement. And we have the ability to show people that we are ready to fight for a strong contract, and we know that we can, and we know that's not what this is. You know, people across industries, unions, people who don't have unions are looking at our contract fight and are looking at what we're doing as UPS workers. So I think it's important that in this moment, we stand together, we stand united, And we stand ready to fight, no matter who stands in our way. And we know that we can make significant gains in this contract. This is important. I mean, yeah, like I said, it's important for us, for people across industries. It's important for the Amazon workers who are looking at what we're able to actually win in this. And I think it's important to just show that the union is not just the union leadership, it's really, it's on each and every one of us to get involved and to push for what we know we need to see. And push to actually have some real militancy in our union, in the labor movement more broadly. The militancy that our current union leadership spoke a lot about, but then did not follow through on. So that is a general introduction to our event today. I'm very, very excited. We have a great list of people who are going to speak, who are going to be joining in from across the country. So first, I am going to introduce Jess, who's a part-timer. She's in Georgia. She's been a member of Teamsters Mobilize for a while. So yeah, take it away, Jess.
Hey guys. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about what's been going on in my area, in my barn, how we've been organized now around a Vote No campaign. The part-time demands have not changed. Those demands were set back in January. 25 as a base pay, 75 cents for catch-up raises. While our focus as a group of Teamsters Mobilize is the priority of the part-timers, we support all the issues that still remain across all classifications of Teamsters. And one thing that we still need in this contract, we need something that actually gives value back to Teamsters. And that's not only in wages, that is time with families, that is more days off to have for whatever is needed, whether that be sickness, whether that be family, whether that just be something outside of work that you need to get done. That's one thing that our members have been very vocal about. They don't want just added penalties for 9-5, right? They actually want to be off the clock. They don't want added penalties for an 8-hour request. They want the 8-hour day, and that's it. This contract really has not improved on that. We also have done nothing to address the harassment that we have, we are plagued with on a daily basis. Nobody is getting paid penalties for harassment. So suggesting that that penalty is increased, that's not a win because nobody's getting paid. Let's be real. So there's no change there. There's really no change in our quality of life. The company still controls us. They can work us excessively and they can get away with it because they currently do, and that hasn't changed. So those are some of the things that I think we need to go back to the table, and we need to get all those concerns addressed for everybody. And it's okay to say, okay, yeah, we got some gains here, there, but it's not enough, right? We've had these crazy concessionary contracts for so long. This isn't about just making a minor improvement. We need major improvements across the board, and that should be the bar. And with our bargaining power of 350,000 Teamsters, as well as the value that we know we bring to the economy and the profits for UPS and their shareholders, we know that we deserve more, right? We don't need to compare ourselves to anybody else except for Teamsters that are doing the same work. And all we need to look at is the profits. The profits are there, and they are so crazy high because we are being exploited. And we need a little bit more control over our lives and how we say this company can use us, right? Because that's what they're doing. They're using us. We're just these disposable profit making pawns. We know the company doesn't care about us. We can at least put limits on how far we let that exploitation go. And we need that return back to us in the form of wages and time with our families and protections from being harassed on a constant basis by this company. So I want to, I encourage anybody that thinks that, you know what, we should get more. Okay, so say it with your vote. Tell people like, hey, we need more. Consider voting no if you're on the fence. We're not going to strike. The IBT is not going to take us on a strike. I don't believe that was ever the intention. Nobody ever really wanted to call for a strike. We just want to go back to the negotiating table, and we want to win a good contract that all Teamsters agree, yeah, okay, this is actually a good deal. I can say yes to this, right? So that's all we want, just reasonable contract. So I encourage everybody to push back, talk to their people in their barns, pass out some of our materials, hop on some of these webinars and speak to us. We want to hear from you guys. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Jess. Yeah, I've been very inspired to see what you've been doing in your local. I know you've been going out to different barns, handing out flyers, even at places where you don't know anyone, and meeting new people who are excited to actually talk about what we can win in this fight, and the fact that we should be fighting and not just accepting this contract. So yes, thank you, Jess. Next, I am going to ask Todd to turn on his camera and unmute so he can speak. Let's see, Todd, your camera is still off. And
I think the host has me turned off.
Oh, okay. I think I have, okay, great. So I'll just say briefly, Todd is a feeder driver in local 638 in Minneapolis. I met Todd a few months ago when he was outside of my building in Jersey with his no COLA, no contract petition campaign, which he will speak more about later. He has a background in business administration and economics and is going to share some kind of larger overview of the actual finances from the annual report of UPS to put in context what we're talking about when we say we know we can fight for more in this contract. So Todd, I will pass it over to you.
Thank you. And could you please put up that first slide? Okay, so I've always thought that we need to fight for a fair contract. And what does a fair contract mean to me? The way that I look at this is I calculate the percentage of compensation and benefits as a total of their total revenue. And so that column, if you're looking at this, there's a percentage that's about 4 columns over on from the left. That's 57.7%. And that's the top number. It goes down to 57, 52.9. The average of these numbers is roughly 54%. Now, the highest number was 61%. And the lowest two numbers have been in 2021 and 2022 at 48%. So the reason I'm sharing this with you is for a fair contract, I don't think we should be at the lowest percentage of total revenue when the company's having the record profits that they are. I believe we should be more in that middle 50 range. And the contract that is put forth, they talked about $60 billion. I'm sorry, $30 billion across the life of the contract, which if you divide that by 5, that's $6 billion a year. And with $100 billion of revenue, it takes that 48% up to 54%, which is great. Okay, but that's only for the first year. If revenues go up to 120 billion by the 5th year, that number is going to be back down to 45%, which is by far the lowest we've ever had. So one of the things that we've been doing is we are trying to get a cost of living adjustment for our pensions. And the way that we feel that could be done is to tap into their windfall profits that they make during times of inflation. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But one of the reasons that number is so low at 48% is because some of those windfall profits over the last couple of years. So let's go to, I'm going to throw out another concept here, and that is normalized earnings. There's a lot of noise in earnings reports. Some of the noise is because of gains, because of UPS has and controls pension funds and retirement funds, which during times of inflation, over the last 2 years, it's actually created over $1 billion of tax liability for the company, just because of the net income that those funds have created. So when you take out that and you get to normalized earnings, that's kind of where I think you need to look for an accurate number for the percentage of revenue, total revenue, that compensation and benefits equal. Another example of noise is the fuel surcharges. UPS makes a lot of money when fuel prices go up because they put fuel surcharges on every package. And sometimes, just for your own entertainment, take a look at the UPS fuel surcharges and figure out how much that is per package car, because it's a big number. So, okay, if you would go to the next exhibit, this one. So going back to the idea of a fair contract, in 2004, the dividend payment was $1.12 per share. In 2023, the dividend payment was $6.48 per share, for a change of 580% over that 20-year period. Now, a lot of that happened in the last 2 years because of those excess profits that were generated from the pandemic and from inflation. The next one is equity. In the fourth quarter of 2020, the total equity of the company was $753 million, which is awfully low for a company with $100 billion in revenue. But that went up to $20 billion in the first quarter of 2023, and all of these numbers can be verified in their financial statements. And so what caused that? A large percentage of that gain in equity was created by reduction in liability from the pension funds that UPS controls. And that's what we are calling the windfall profit, that we would hope that they would create a cost of living adjustment for pensions with those windfall or excess profits. That's what we were trying to accomplish when we were going around the country getting these signatures. The next column is the change in equity. In 2004, the number of shares outstanding was 1.153 billion. 2023, it was 859 million. So why does the company buy back their stock? They buy it to make the earnings per share go up, because if the earnings of the company are spread over fewer shares, that earnings per share goes up. So that's another benefit to the shareholders. They reduce the outstanding shares by 25%. So they've really taken care of the shareholders. Now, I believe they also need to take care of the people that built the earnings power of this company, And that is us, the service providers, because without us, there's no revenue. And so we shouldn't be falling behind inflation. We should at least be keeping up with inflation. And as some of the graphics that I've seen, the part-time wages since 1982 haven't kept up with inflation. The full-time wages actually have, and they've actually been a little bit above the rate of inflation for a gain of roughly 2%. And that equates to about 80 cents an hour. There's been a lot of productivity gains at UPS. People are working a lot harder to make that wage. So I think a 2% real wage increase is probably warranted, and perhaps a little bit more. That 30 now pension is an IBT UPS pension. There are different pension funds all over the country. And so that 30 now pension is the UPS IBT fund. If that kept up with inflation, a 30 now pension should be $4,830. And I believe they're looking at raising it to 4,800 or something like that. So all of these are from the UPS, all these numbers are from the UPS annual reports. There's something called the 10K section of the annual report. On page 26 and 27, you can see some of the information about the gains from the pensions. Page 81, 82, and page 90 of the 10K, you can also see a lot of the information where I get these numbers and make these statements from about the gains in equity and stuff like that, because it shows up on those pages. That's where the accounting shows up. So what we tried to do is we went around the country with our organization, NoCola-NoContract.org, and it probably should have been No Cola, No Contract for, or No Cola for Pensions, NoContract.org. But oh, here's a couple extra little interesting facts. To change these percentages a little bit and reduce their profits a little bit, UPS has definitely been a little bit aggressive with their accounting. In the fourth quarter, they took a $505 million charge to accelerate the vesting of performance incentives. What that basically means is stock and stock options for the top executives. And in fact, the top executives sold a heck of a lot of their equity in UPS, or their investment in UPS, on the 17th of February. There's something called a Form 4 of the SEC filings. And if you Google UPS SEC filings, you can get those Form 4s and see how much of this, the shares the CEO, the CFO, and other top executives at UPS have sold. They have to file paperwork with the SEC when they make major trades like that. So,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm gonna interject really quickly. I mean, these numbers, I think, really illustrate like what a total joke it is to say that UPS doesn't have the money to do XYZ, you know, to put the COLA for the pension, to raise the part-time wages to 25 as a start. These things are all possible. I mean, we know that, you know, and we know how hard people worked during the pandemic. And then you look at those numbers, you see how much the compensation increased versus how much the company was making is pretty mind-boggling to actually think about. So yeah, I just wanted to say that quickly because it also really shows that I think it's a lie when the IBT leadership is saying they didn't leave anything on the table, like it was impossible for them to get anything more. Like we all know that, but seeing these numbers is quite striking.
Well, you had a thing about U.S. government debt up a couple of seconds ago, and I do want to make a point about that. It was the previous slide. You can see that in 2004, the U.S. government debt was 7.3 trillion. It's gone up 400% to over 30 trillion right now. And the way that governments oftentimes try to pay back debt, if they in fact do try to pay back debt, is by creating some inflation. So they're paying back with cheaper dollars than they actually borrowed. And so that's why I'm so passionate about trying to get the right COLA formula for our pensions. And that right COLA formula, in my opinion, is the same formula as Social Security, because that actually keeps up with inflation. That's based on the change in the consumer price index. And quite frankly, I think we ought to have that for our wages too, because what we have seen in the last 2 years is how UPS benefits in extraordinary ways financially during times of inflation. That's what generated a lot of these huge profits that UPS has achieved. And I think it's only appropriate to protect the workers and protect the buying powers of the people that built the earnings power of the company and the people that are still building the earnings power of the company.
Yeah, I mean, inflation, yeah, serves, the big corporations and banks, and has just eaten away at like what wages, we had to start, and the pensions, for everyone who's retiring. We do have to shift to other speakers, but I just wanted to ask if you wanted to share some final thoughts. I know you've said that obviously you're voting no, and part of that is no COLA, no contract, but you've also told me that you would vote no regardless, actually, even if this whole proposal had made it in.
There are some language things that need to be improved upon. Unfortunately, my main focus has been on the COLA effort, so I've let other people that are very competent in our local fight the battles about the other language. So I guess I've given you a couple ideas of what I feel are things that need improvement, but I would let others speak to that because they're more competent than I am in that. So, but thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Todd. Someone asked in the chat, does Todd have any social media? I'm almost positive Todd does not have social media.
I have a flip phone.
Yes, so
I'm actually a little anti-technology simply because I don't like the distraction in my life. However, I do have a smartphone also, and Audrey very graciously taught me how to be on this webinar. So sorry, I don't do social media. However, once in a while I will post some things on some of the Facebook forums for UPS employees. So
yeah, thank you so much, Todd.
thank you.
If people do want to check out more information and some more, graphs, there is stuff on the no COLA, no contract.org website, which maybe someone can drop in the chat. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just important to see like how monstrously large actually this company is, how much they've made in profits, and that there's definitely more that we should be fighting for. My own view is that even if the compensation was 70% or something of revenue, it still wouldn't be fair. No matter what happens in this contract, it's not going to be fair because they're still making money off of our exploitation. But we definitely can and should fight for more. Okay, now I'm going to introduce Will. He is an RPCD, a driver out of Cerritos, California. He's in local 396. So Will, if you just want to introduce yourself, talk about some of the main issues facing drivers. I know there's a lot of issues with the 9/5 and overtime, with the cameras, with the ACs. And then I know also you've been a strong fighter out there in California to push the no vote. So if you could speak about some of those things, that'd be great.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, so I'm Big Will. I'm out of local 396 out in Cerritos. And before I say anything on those other issues, I would like to start earlier in my career and just to say that I'm very inspired by all these young people, all the young people on here. and Teamsters Mobilize. What you guys have done has been a real inspiration and something I wish we had when I was a young part-timer. So much love and solidarity and big shout out for that. I want to start back when I was a part-timer, and this was before the 97 strike. And I struggled with two jobs, just like most of you guys, and the stories that I've heard. I did struggle with two jobs, and I worked my way up to the 97 strike as a part-timer. And that strike really changed my life. That 97 strike changed my life because full-timers chose to risk themselves, their lifestyle, their bills, their homes for part-timers. And we really need to get that attitude back and do it again. We need that back. I see a lot of selfishness going on. It's all about me, 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 me. No, it's about all of us. This is a union. We're Teamsters, and we're supposed to fight for the most vulnerable among us, right? And I wanted to start there. And I just want to say, after the 97 strike, I was immediately promoted into a combo job. Okay, I did that for 3 years. That really changed my life. After the 3 years, I decided to go driving. In 30 days, I was at top rate. That was because those full-timers decided to take a stand and strike, and change my history, and change the history of many of my coworkers. A lot of us were so happy and overwhelmed with joy when we got out of the part-time ranks and became full-timers, and that's what we want for you guys now. Well, I do anyways. That's what I want, and that's why I'm speaking today. I'm speaking today because I want to be that person back then that touched my life, and I want to do that for you guys. I want to see you guys move forward, just like I did, and we're gonna do it. Okay, we're gonna do it. And okay, so going on to the driver issues, right? I heard the sister earlier talking about the 9.5. 9.5. Okay, what is that? Okay, so we have monetary, right? The monetary payout. What is that going to do? I mean, they're going to keep violating our 9.5 rights, right? Our 8-hour requests. They're going to keep doing that. We need stronger language to where it says, hey, you know what? You're at 9.5. You need to come in. You need to come back in, and then let them worry about it. That's what we need. Or you know what? We don't even need to get there. They just need to dish you right, and that's a problem, right? We need stronger language for that. Okay. Heat and heat-related illnesses. Just in my area alone, we had 3 guys go out on heat injury recently, right? And that's because the manager and the on-roads are just pushing numbers, and they really don't care. They say drink all the water, but you can drink all the water you want, but you could still get a heat related injury. That happened to me, knocked me out for 3 months. It was not nice. It was one of the worst parts of my career at UPS, and I'll never forget that. And it's scary. A lot of guys, you get PTSD. You're like, hey, is today gonna be again? Is it gonna be again where I'm gonna get heat-related illness? It's scary. So we need more relief when it comes to heat. We need maybe more breaks out there when it's really hot. So we need to negotiate that. Also, another issue that I see is the harassment language. We all get harassed as drivers, right? Everybody talks about it, and I talked about it too in our meetings. Nobody's seen that 3-hour penalty. Nobody's seen that. Why not? Why aren't we getting those 3 hours paid, right? And now it's increased to 5. What is the mechanism that's going to get us that penalty in order for the boss to pay us and have them pay that penalty in order for them not to do it again? What's the mechanism going to be? Because I haven't seen it and I've never seen it. So we need to go back and clear up that language, right? So those are the big issues that I see right now in terms of my area as an RPCD. and just basically, basically getting us home to our family and having a life. That's what it all boils down to, our quality of life. And it's really hard. You leave in the morning, you don't get back till late at night. After a while it gets old. So we need to stay united, part-timers and full-timers together, and we need to send it back, okay? And we need to make it clear that we could really make a historic stand right now if we vote this thing down and get a better contract for all of us. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Will. And, I know you and others, including myself, when speaking up about the vote no, have faced a lot of backlash. And, in the face of that, I just know that we're, even if we're far apart geographically, we're on opposite sides of the country, we are standing together, side by side. And we are going to continue this fight, and we won't be scared into silence. So yeah, we know how much we can win in this contract, and how important it is for us to come together, to be united, whether or not it's a contract year. So yeah, thank you so much, Will. Next, I'm going to introduce Tony, out of Seattle, Washington, in local 174. He is a part-timer. He has just recently made book, and he's going to talk about how he's been active in the union since he started working at UPS recently. The new two-tier system for new part-timers coming in, which we absolutely cannot accept, and just overall some words about our vote no fight.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. My name is Tony. I'm a part-time preloader in Seattle, Washington, local 174. And I started at UPS just recently in April 2023 as a part-time preloader here in Seattle. And though I'm relatively new to the UPS Teamsters, I've been active in the labor movement throughout my adult life, having organized union drives at previous workplaces. Because of this experience, I joined right in the organizing of my fellow part-time workers at my barn in the contract campaign throughout this spring and summer. I joined right in the tasks of talking with coworkers about our demands, flyering, organizing communications between coworkers, calling together parking lot meetings after shifts, and organizing the practice pickets this summer. I also joined Teamsters Mobilize to work with other part-timers fighting back against UPS's exploitation of our labor and the repression, especially of part-time wages. Through these efforts, my whole building was organized and ready to strike for our demands of $25 an hour base wage for part-timers, 75-cent catch-up raises for part-timers, an end to the rampant MRA abuse that we've experienced, and an end to part-time poverty. But after the IBT leadership called off the looming strike that we were all ready for and released this tentative agreement, my coworkers and I felt betrayed. The demands we were organizing around were not met in the language of the tentative agreement, and we found new concessions abounded. So I joined the Vote No campaign and continued organizing for our demands, flyering, talking to coworkers, holding meetings. But UPS management took notice of my organizing and early on put a target on my back. Through intimidation, excessive load quality audits, putting me on 5 trucks, in my first month. They're really trying to intimidate me and get me to back down, get my coworkers to back down as well, who are organizing together. In particular, UPS management tried to intimidate and scare us away from flyering in the workplace. They in so doing, they violated our rights under the National Labor Relations Act, claiming that we had to flyer off of UPS property. We had to go to the sidewalk. We couldn't even do it outside of the door. This
They tried to tell
intimidation.
me that too.
They tried to tell you that too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
both
it's ridiculous.
management and my local union told me I couldn't flyer and tried to intimidate, and stop me. Even once they said, okay, yeah, actually you have the right to do that, they still were trying to intimidate me and stop me from handing out flyers. So, and I think that's something, yeah, we're kind of facing across the country that we have to be prepared for.
Definitely. Yeah, so it's really important to know your rights under the National Labor Relations Act. I'll talk a little bit more about that later.
Maybe
But oh, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, we mentioned it a little bit, but could you just talk about what's going on with this new tier for part-timers and what does it represent? And why we should fight against it.
Sure. Yeah, I just made seniority on Thursday of last week. August, what is that? August 5th. And that puts me into under this tentative agreement. If it were to go through, this puts me under the newly created lower tier part-time wage scale. So this puts me starting at $21 an hour, and only progressing in minuscule amounts up to $23 5 years from now. Yeah, this new tier introduced of lower tier part-time workers, the selling out of some of our current, but many of our future coworkers, is something that we can't accept. A big part of this contract fight so far this past year has been the elimination of the two-tier driver system, where the 22-4 drivers paid significantly less than the regular package car drivers. And unfortunately, this tier, though, through the life of the contract, the pay will come up to the same rate. Still, some of those the scheduling aspects of the 22-4 position, the forced Tuesday through Saturday schedule, still remains. And it's even worse for this new part-time lower tier. The not even the regular part-time pay scale keeps up with inflation throughout the length of the contract, but it's even worse for this lower part-time tier, which only raises $2 over 5 years. This is something that we should not accept, this concession. Yeah, I wanted to talk as well about the UPS management's repression of organizing in the workplace. As I said, UPS management took notice of my organizing, put a target on my back, intimidated me and my coworkers for flyering. And this intimidation came to a head during my shift yesterday. My barn manager pulled me off my workstation, walked me to the office, and terminated my employment totally unexpectedly, without previous progressive discipline, on alleged violations of the attendance policy. Though I demanded union representation, something I'm guaranteed by the National Labor Relations Act, my barn manager denied me representation. And one of the violations he was trying to terminate me for was one of my right to use a protected Seattle sick day. And as I said, he also violated UPS's own policy for following progressive discipline for attendance. So without representation, having been illegally denied my right to a union steward's presence in disciplinary meetings, I disputed myself the wrongful termination. After a lengthy meeting, the barn manager stood his ground, terminated me, and sent me home. But that same day, after consulting his UPS labor agent and getting schooled for his blatant violations of workers' rights, my manager called me that same day to rescind my termination and give me my job back. Unfortunately, as Jess said, this kind of harassment and intimidation isn't covered in this tentative agreement. I immediately spoke with my business agent and union representatives about this, these gross violations, and they informed me that there's no penalty for this kind of harassment in the national contract. But far from discouraging me, this repression has only strengthened my resolve and my coworkers' unity to fight to change these oppressive conditions, to continue the fight to increase part-time pay, to end part-time poverty, to eliminate the second tier of part-time workers, and to rid our contract of these concessions. So we're continuing to organize a Vote No campaign at my barn and in my local.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I was kind of following along as this was happening, as you'd said you'd been wrongfully terminated, and it's important that you fought that, and now you have your job back, and you're gonna be right back tomorrow organizing. I think, power to you and to everyone who's standing up against this kind of repression. So I am now going to pass the mic over to John Palmer. He is IBT Vice President, and he's going to also speak about, and he's also a longtime Teamster, about why he thinks that we should be voting no. And John, if you could just unmute.
Good evening to everybody. I know it's Sunday night. We're all trying to spend time with our families. I want to first off say that I got involved, or I've always been involved in fighting for reform in our union. I ran with the current leadership thinking that we were going to see a considerable amount of reform. I've seen a small amount of it, to be honest with you. But the truth of the matter is this contract is riddled with holes, and it's not. A lot of people are trying to say it's about the part-timers. That's a portion of it, but I think if you're a feeder driver, you have to be concerned about the AI language. You have to be concerned about the language for subcontracting. If you're a package car driver, I don't have time to go through it all. The 9-5, the harassment, the intimidation. I see a lot of the same things throwing money at these problems. UPS is more than happy to throw money at these problems. As long as I've been a Teamster, they've been throwing money at the harassment and the intimidation. These things are not going to change. I think everybody really needs to read the agreements, understand what's in them. And I do believe that in the last contract, we had opportunities just because of the nature of how well the economy was doing. We had opportunities to make huge gains, and that administration failed to do so. This economy really didn't change matters. We lived through the pandemic. Our members, more so than probably any other group of workers, worked through the pandemic, got exposed to COVID. Many of them died. It's time to reward folks. I've been a Teamster for what, 36 years now. And the part-timers, I'm going to put it in real simple terms, have been crapped on in every contract, sold short. UPS has so many classifications, so many different work definitions that it naturally separates people. So I'm a solid vote no on this, as far as recommending it as a member of the GEB, as far as a leader who feels that the members should ask our union to go back to the table and negotiate a strong contract for our members. The leverage is there. I got to be honest. This whole thing looked like a bit of an acting show. I mean, it was PR squared, and we deserve better than PR. We deserve people that are interested in truly working on behalf of their membership. And so I don't want to, this is about everybody but me. My only job is to try to stand up and argue for our membership. And all I'm asking the rest of these folks to do is exactly that. Stop with the corporate politics. Let's really get back to what trade unionism is about. Let's get rid of the business unionism. Let's work for the members. I don't believe this contract measures up. That's all I got to say. And I will say this, I really am sick of people attacking one another because they don't agree. What makes this union great, or this country great, which I served in the military and so did all of my family, is the fact that we have the right to express an opinion. Let's quit beating each other up. Let's let the members understand what's at play here, and let's fight for a good contract. And I'm here to support the Vote No movement.
Thanks so much, John. Yeah, I mean, a union, should be about fighting for the members, for the workers. And I agree. I really think the whole, especially the last month of negotiations, were like a PR stunt. It was like, theater, watching all this stuff from IBT about we're going to go on strike, we're going to fight to the very end. And then, they very quickly came to an agreement, which did betray a lot of, UPS workers across classifications, yeah, part-time demands, that was one thing, but there's major issues for every UPS worker in this contract. So yeah, I think, what we have to do is like fight for the soul of our union to actually be like a fighting union, one that's really going to stand up against the executives and shareholders of UPS, against the government, which is clearly been working to make this deal happen. So
can I say something real quick? And I know it's run over. I want to just look, as a lifelong organizer, I started organizing with Ron Carey. I've organized for the better part of my lifetime. My hat's off to all of the Teamsters Mobilize people. I'm old. I look at the guy you see right here in the mirror every morning. My time is short. You guys are firing me up. We need this. We need to quit doing what we've been doing for the last 40 plus years. We need to start fighting. And I'm just so proud of you guys. That's all I got to say. And I'm a solid supporter of this movement.
Thanks, John. Yeah, I think, it's great to be able to all work together, all of us who are standing together to vote no and to fight for more. Young people, but also people who've been involved in this fight for many decades. I think it's very important. So now we are going to move to the town hall portion of the event. So how that works is you should have an ability to raise your hand. Once you do, Peter on our end is going to bring people in one by one into the speaking panelist room. So we're asking people, given how many of us are here, we're hoping everyone wants to speak, to try to limit your comments to about 2 minutes, just so everyone has the chance to speak. Please say what's on your mind. What do you think of this contract? What do you think are the issues with it? What do you want to see changed? If you've been organizing a no vote in your barn, how's that been going? And, you know, anything else that you want to share. We think it's very important, and we really want to work to have space like for people to share what they think, because I know at the local meetings that can be pretty hard. I know that the IBT had these surveys for us last year, and then it feels like they threw those in the trash. So we want to actually like have this forum, and then also the survey and future events for people to speak their mind. I will say at some point we're expecting a worker from the International Longshoremen's Warehouse Union to join to speak. He's at work right now. He's in Oakland, but at some point we will bring him in. So yeah, I think with that, if people can start to raise their hands, and like I said, Peter will bring people in to speak. And you know, I know we have a lot of different ideas about this contract. I know we have different disagreements. I'm not sure who all is on this call. Maybe there's some people who are, yeah, anyways, but just ask that people are basically respectful of each other in this conversation. But please, yeah, speak your mind. And let's see, I think first we have Joseph. So Joseph, go ahead, you can unmute. Joseph, are you there? If so, we cannot hear you.
Can you?
I heard a little bit of that. You cut out for me. I'm not sure for others, maybe you can say in the chat.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you, Joseph. Could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, Brother Joe, retired Teamster from straight out of Local 705. Yeah, I was having a little trouble with technical difficulty. I kept having to press it a bunch of different times. But yeah, I've been flyering at the UPS facilities in Teamster Local 705. Got out, you know, over 400 flyers. You know, was flyered Tuesday through a Friday. You know, the thing is, most people, you know, are very positive, you know, for the vote no on the contract, you know, but, you know, and, you know, there's a few people at different locations that are strong yes, basically the minions of the moving backwards slate. But most of, you know, people are positive with the vote no. But the thing is, how does that translate, you know, to voting no on the contract, right? Because Local 705 has a political machine, and they're going to, you know, probably do a sales job. But in 705, I looked at it today, they have no information about, you know, voting on the contract. They, you know, they had a meeting for the negotiating committee, you know, and, you know, stewards, but they haven't announced when they're having a local meeting, because I did talk to somebody on the negotiating committee, said they're having that soon. But the thing is, we don't know what's going on with the pension, because, you know, a lot of people in other areas, you know, got the short end of the stick, to put it nicely, on the pensions. So if, you know, if that's a question, that might turn it into, you know, a vote no in 705. It might make it, you know, the conditions easier for that. You know, I got people I know that are going to be doing, you know, the vote no on, you know, the word of mouth on the inside. But, you know, I'm outside at the gates, you know what I mean? Because I'm a retiree. But the thing is, you know, I look at, you know, two main categories of vote no peoples, right? You know, we need to get as many people as possible, but part-timers who fight for 25. Now I'm pushing for 27 because, you know, UPS paid up to $27 in some areas, but at Catch, they're still paying 24 and they offer 21. That's ridiculous. And then people worried about their pensions, like in the Western region, I guess New Jersey as well, you know, that their pension, you know, increase in pension contributions are getting freeze. So I think those are the biggest constituencies, you know, to organize the vote no.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, I mean, I'm in North Jersey local 177, and they are reducing the pension contribution by $1.50. That is happening. But yeah, I appreciate that you're out there at the gates, as a retired Teamster. So yes, up next we are going to have Jose, who I believe that's Jose from Teamsters Mobilize. So go ahead, Jose.
Good afternoon, buenas tardes to everybody. My name is Jose Francisco Negrete, a local 952 out here in Anaheim, California, 25-year part-timer. And I want to piggyback off what my brother, Big Will, was talking about about solidarity. His whole message in his speech was solidarity. What the full-timers did in '97 for the part-timers, I hope the full-timers will do it for the part-timers. We can't just allow UPS to have these stagnated wages that don't benefit the part-timers. We still have to work 2 to 3 jobs. Some of us are still living in shelters. Some of us are living in our cars, some being unhoused. We just need more solidarity building when it comes to this contract, or any contract, through all unions, not just the Teamsters, but in every union. There's got to be real union solidarity built within this. But there's a lot of issues when it comes for drivers too. As a part-time, I want to speak on the drivers 9-5. There's no real 9-5 language. UPS has no problem paying quadruple time. They don't really care. They'll pay for supervisors that are working too. For part-timers, you're going to get paid quadruple time. Is it going to stop UPS supervisors from working? Probably not. But hey, take that free money if you guys can. But yeah, there's no real strong 5-9 language, 9-5 language, excuse me. Still no 8-hour request is still not good enough. The ride-alongs, they only could do 1 ride-along, but there's some improvements that needed to happen on that end as well. And then there's a big thing with the pension out here in the West, which is, for those that don't know, in the Southwest and the West, we used to get $1, and that dollar will be allocated first to health and welfare and second to the pension. And however it went, that's how it went. And in our pension, we would put extra away. We have a big reserve. So that's how we were able to, because we would have enough to put into that reserve, so in case something happens. But now what was agreed upon is that we still have $1, but out of that dollar, 50 cents got allocated to health and welfare and pension, and 50 cents to wages. Out of the 50 cents going to health and welfare and welfare and pension, 25 cents went to health and welfare and 25 cents went to the pension. Now you give this corporation or any corporation an inch, and they're going to blow it out and make it into a mile. And allowing UPS, now that UPS knows that we will accept $1, but only that 50 cents will be used for health and welfare and pension. That's something scary, because now UPS knows, well, if you guys want this certain amount of pay, for example, part-timers 25, and the future is going to be 30 because inflation is going up, cost of living is going up. They know that to get to that 30, they will pull from the allocated $1 that traditionally has gone to health and welfare and the pension. And that's a problem. I mean, yes, we should help underfunded pensions. And we should have, and with that said, we should have fought UPS harder to UPS to allocate more money into those underfunded pensions to help them out. But we shouldn't have been, 50 cents shouldn't have been allocated, excuse me, for health and welfare and pension. That was wrong. We shouldn't have done that. And then 50 cents to wages. Where's those wages? Where's those wages going to? In what form? We still don't know. So there's a lot of things that this contract didn't answer. And then another thing too, concerning part-timers, some part-timers cannot go driving for their respective reasons. Now we have these supplements where they put classification over seniority. My brother Noah Gaxiola out of Local 104 in Tucson is the one who put this in my ear, and I just, it became crystal clear that in our supplements, classification is before seniority when it comes to a combo job. Because they first in the Southwest and probably in other supplements as well, and riders, it goes to existing combo first, drivers with 15 years seniority, and part-timers last. If you're going to create 7,500 jobs, who's going to get those jobs? Are some part-timers going to get it? Probably. Is the majority of part-timers going to get it? Probably not. So it still doesn't benefit the part-timers. Part-timers have been overlooked. Part-timers have the part-timer issue has been kicked down the road for too long, and I'm glad that Teamsters Mobilize has finally tried to address these issues so this can doesn't get kicked down the road, so we could have a good quality of life. A good quality of life isn't a brother or a sister being unhoused. But then again, I hear these arguments. A part-time wasn't meant to raise a family. A part-time wasn't meant to buy a home. A part-time wasn't meant to be unhoused. Part-timer wasn't meant to live in a shelter. You know, so something has to give. So I'm honored and glad that Teamsters Mobilize had this webinar. Teamsters Mobilize had this cat. Teamsters Mobilize had this town hall. And to everybody out there, we must think of each other. Yes, we have families. Yes, that's very important to us. But I'm glad you have yours, but there's others that are struggling to get theirs. Let's think about that. Solidarity to everybody. Gracias.
Thank you, Jose. Yeah, I think it's very important that we have solidarity with each other. We're fighting for all of our demands, not just ones that are applicable just to, me as a part-timer, for example. I know, Todd, you had raised your hand before. I saw you put something in the chat, but if you did want to unmute and speak, please feel free.
Yes, Audrey. I was just making the comment that the earnings report comes out, I believe it's Tuesday on the 8th. And in the past earnings report in the conference call section, Carol Tomei stated that 44% of the net income was going to be in the first half and 56% in the second half of the year. So I don't know how they can get that accurate as far as what their net income is going to be in the future, but apparently they can. But I think there's always some interesting information in there. So I would encourage people to read the transcript. You can get it on, you can Google it, and then perhaps there'll be some comments on it on your next webinar. That's all I got.
Awesome. Thank you, Todd. Yes, Tony, please go ahead and speak. And I really encourage others to raise their hands and just say, what are the issues that are most important to you in this contract? What are you hearing from your coworkers? Anything else that's on your mind? Okay, go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, so as I was saying earlier, when I spoke earlier, I'm here in Seattle, Washington, one of the metropolitan areas in the United States with one of the highest costs of living. Currently in my building, we've got our part-time pay is under an MRA at $24 an hour, which isn't nearly enough to have any sort of decent quality life in the whole metropolitan area, even outside the city. For an average apartment in Seattle, you got to make $40 an hour working full time to be able to just barely afford it being a third of your income. So $24 an hour part time does not cut it. One of the biggest issues that me and my coworkers in the area and in my building are facing is the abuse of the market rate adjustment. Last November, during the pandemic, because of the lower labor supply, with so many people being ill, us losing so many of our coworkers to COVID-19, UPS was forced to raise our pay to get people in the door to $27 an hour market rate adjustment. Many of my coworkers worked for $27 an hour for over a year, and then last November, without any notice, overnight, our pay was dropped down to $22 an hour, cut $5 an hour. And this whole contract fight, you know, the rhetoric, the slogans we were hearing, you know, from union leadership were, you know, end part-time poverty. Me and my coworkers were, you know, practice picketing, holding these signs with these slogans. And MRA abuse was another one. And when we came and opened this tentative agreement, we saw that there's no new language protecting part-time workers from MRA pay cuts at whenever UPS wants it. There's a provision, there's language that was in the previous contract that is incredibly weak, that didn't prevent us in the past from our MRA wages being cut, and it's not going to protect us in the future, despite what some are claiming. Even our my local 174 you know, union officials put out a flyer claiming that, oh no, it's fine, the MRAs can't be taken away. But then you go and look at the actual language, and there's no new language protecting us.
Yeah, like we're just told, oh, just trust us.
Just trust us.
Yeah, which is, I mean, we're not going to do that.
It just, yeah, the language is, MRAs cannot be taken away due to this article, which is just like the general wage increase. That's a conditional prohibition. We need an unconditional prohibition. They can say, oh, you know, we're not taking away your MRA rate because of this article. We're taking it away because of market conditions, or we're expecting less volume, or just because we fucking feel like it.
Yeah, absolutely.
None of those are protected.
Yeah, and like that's totally unacceptable. And that's been a big issue for people across the country. So I absolutely agree. There should be no ability for UPS to take those away. I just wanted to now pass it over to Zoe. I know she's had her hand up for a bit. So Zoe, if you could just introduce yourself, you know, tell us where you're joining from, what you do at UPS, and what do you think about this contract?
Hey y'all, I'm Zoe Niebuhr. I'm in local 391 in Raleigh, North Carolina. And you know, I think that there was some great gains in some areas of the contract, but overall, I don't think it matches the leverage that we had. And, you know, me and my coworkers, we were mobilized. We were ready to fight for like a very solid contract. And I think we still can if we vote this down. I did want to just bring up some issues with the Atlantic supplement. We got one small game that will get overtime pay on our day off, if we're called in our day off for part-timers, but only for half the year, from August 1st to the end of the year, but not for the other half of the year. I know the national contract says that they can force us in on Saturdays, and that's, I mean, I've got to work another job alongside this one. I would really wish that the 4-6 punch applied to everybody. The Atlantic supplement's also the only supplement in the country that doesn't have a paid break for part-timers. And yeah, that's something I'd like to see change. So, I'm planning on voting no on the national contract, but a definite no on the supplement. Our supplement is just so behind the rest of the country, and we need to get it fixed.
Yeah, thank you, Zoe. Yeah, just to reiterate, like UPS can force the 6th punch for people to come in on a 6th day for everyone except for RPCDs under this. And I agree. I mean, there should be breaks in the national master that apply to everyone. It's crazy that people are working, like I know there's, part-timers working for 6, 7, 8 hours with no break in some states. So thank you for sharing. If anyone else would like to raise their hand to speak. Oh, great. Megan, please, the floor is yours.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I am in California, local 952. There's been a bunch of issues at our building. We're one of the buildings where management is constantly abusing everything. But something that is a huge issue for me because I have medical issues. I have severe asthma and sometimes it acts up, but they made me wait over 2 hours to go to the emergency room. And we had signed a grievance stating that I am supposed to be rendered, well, anybody in the building, when they are injured, they are supposed to be rendered medical help immediately. Now, I recently had another asthma attack. There was a leaker, and I have all my stuff with me to take care of myself. And they made me wait over an hour to the point that, they had to have an ambulance come and get me. And there's been other issues, like we had a person die in our building because proper medical care wasn't rendered as it should have been. So I would like to see, and then I don't know if you know this, but in the buildings, they're actually not supposed, at least at our building, they've told us they're not supposed to provide us with anything to clean wounds. They can provide Band-Aids, but they can't do anything else. I know that we have an office for a nurse that used to be there, but being a part-timer in the building, it's an extremely dangerous work environment. We need to actually probably have that nurse come back because there are situations where it's like, hey, yeah, you could do this very small thing and it'd help keep you safe. Or no, this is emergency. You need to get there. Our management and our health and safety team have on almost monthly proven that they are not qualified to make medical decisions on behalf of others. So that's a super big thing I was hoping to see something about, and nothing was changed in regards to health and safety.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Megan. And I'm sorry to hear that you lost a coworker in your building. Yeah, I'm a part-timer, and the building I work in, like everyone else, is very, very dangerous. It's not cleaned, there's broken equipment, and then the rate of work that they pressure us to work at is very unsafe. They know it. Yeah, they really don't, UPS management obviously doesn't care about us or our safety or our lives. So I agree. I think there's huge safety and health issues that need to be addressed in this contract, and we didn't see any of that.
I know, sorry to interrupt,
No, go
but I
ahead.
know that one of the things that a lot of us have been trying to look at is there's a lot of OSHA violations. That's how we get our work done, is we literally have handfuls of OSHA violations everywhere, like everything. You could just walk into the building 10 feet and you'll see OSHA violations. You'll see water fountain filters that aren't currently up to date. Just the quality of air that we breathe alone in there is not safe. The fact that they do welding and, other equipment fixes where there's supposed to be appropriate ventilation. There are so many OSHA violations that might be something to look into. Part of the contract is they need to be inspected regularly to make sure our working environment is healthy and safe.
Yes, I absolutely agree. It's like such a joke when the UPS like supervisors come around like, did you know we really care about your safety? Did you know you're supposed to drink water and egress and all this stuff? Everyone knows, you know, everyone knows it's a joke.
They write in chalk at the entrance for us. One of the days it said, you know, we care about your mental health. Everybody was laughing so hard. I can't even tell you, I'm like, that is the joke of the month right there. This job does nothing great for your mental health.
Absolutely, absolutely agree. I will now call on, yeah, Peter.
Hey, thanks so much. Yeah, I appreciate the space being created here. I mean, really, the thing I wanted to speak to was, I mean, really just an understanding of how, I mean, negotiations work. I think one of my biggest issues, or one of the reasons that I think we really, there's really so much more to be had with this contract is just looking at, I mean, any recent contract negotiations. My mind goes to the Kellogg contract from, I believe, 2021 or 2022, where I think there was maybe 3 or 4 rounds of tentative agreements that were voted down by the membership, and like TA over TA, they just got better and better terms. And I think anyone will sort of tell you, or it's my opinion, I think most people's opinion, that like this is like a solid contract, the TA we have. Like there are gains made, but with how much folks have sacrificed, I mean, I know from my facility, folks died of COVID. Folks have died all over the country, in the, I mean, in the hundreds, if not, I mean, maybe the thousands. And just the amount of people sort of like watching us from like all across the labor movement, Amazon organizers, organizers with, I mean, Home Depot, Target. There's so many eyes on us, and I feel like we're just doing a disservice to the labor movement to not just say no and ask for more. Let's just do it. Let's just see what happens. And I think it's such, the leverage that we have is so great, and the profits that have been made are so massive that not asking for more at this point, I think, is just it's I don't know, it just seems like the not the most intelligent move if we were just to let this moment sort of go to waste.
Yeah, and like at my local meeting today, I think it was there was a few times where the local leadership, in response to people bringing up various issues, said, well, we can always negotiate that in the next contract. Like, what? We have the time right here and now to vote this down and fight for those changes that we need to see now. There's no need to wait 5 years. There's no reason to do that. There's no reason to like give up before we've even begun. So I agree. And I think, you know, it's, yeah, I agree with Matthew in the chat. I think in this current moment, it is about us as UPS Teamsters voting no. But it is also about the larger labor movement. And I think about, you know, building up our strength and our unity across the working class. So yeah, I think it's both things at the same time. And the stack is open for anyone who would like to speak. If you could just raise your hand, that is a Zoom function. If you're not able to do that, feel free to just say something in the chat and then we can bring you in. Great, yes. Will, please take it away.
Hey guys, so today after the meeting, right? We went out to have lunch, and I was having lunch with a part-timer, and he was telling me some of his issues, and I sat down with him, and it kind of like it hit me, right? And I was like, yeah, you know what, absolutely. And I'm gonna tell his story, you know. there's a lot of, I understand that there's a lot of young people in UPS, but there's also a lot of older people that work there. And this gentleman is like in his 30s, in his late 30s, right? And he's telling me, you know what, Will, I don't have 18 years or 10 years to wait for a full-time job, And that just hit me like, wow, yeah, we need to fight for more. We need to make his life better, as much as we can. We need to alleviate his suffering, under this brutal system of capitalism, right? And we need to fight for more for him and people like him in order for them to get to advance themselves in society. And he says that a lot of union leaders refer to a lot of part-timers as young kids. Well, he's not a young kid. There's more than just young kids in the part-time ranks, right? There's older people that work there, and we need to make sure that that's also noted, and that their needs are taken care of as well. It's a diverse group, in our part-time ranks, and everybody is, has their needs and wants and stuff. And like I said, there's just older people in there, and that just kind of struck me. I didn't think about that, and he's absolutely right. And like, he's been working there about maybe 4 or 5 years, and he's also had problems with finding a shelter and stuff like that. So, what Jose talks about, our unhoused part-timers, it's real, it's true. And the poverty, the wealth gap in this country is horrible, and one of the reasons why is because of this part-time garbage that we have going on in this country, that frankly we need to abolish. I don't think that part-time work is good enough. We need to move everyone into full-time. That's just me, because I'm radical like that. And I don't think this eventually we're going to have to move in that direction. This part-time exploitation, the exploitation under this system, it's just not working for people. And we need to fight, and we need to keep battling, the bosses, in order to make a better future for everyone. And thank you so much for letting me speak on that.
Thank you so much, Will. Yeah, that's very, very important to keep in mind. And I agree. I think it's very important to have this larger picture, which is like, why are we facing these issues where we cannot even come close to having our basic needs met by working, 2-3 jobs, by working a full-time job. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the root of it is the fact that this is a capitalist system built on, our exploitation. So long as it exists, we're going to be fighting these fights. But yes, I just wanted to call on Johnny, and then also Maya, because she has not spoken yet. So Johnny, go ahead, if you could just introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Johnny, Teamsters Local 696. I agree with what Audrey said about thinking about the larger labor movement, because the Writers Guild, the Actors Guild, they're on strike right now, and their fight isn't very much different from our fight right now. Companies like Vanguard and BlackRock, they have significant stakes in these studios like Disney and Amazon and stuff like that. And they also have very significant stakes in UPS. Vanguard and BlackRock are the top 1 and 2 institutional investors in UPS. So, our enemies are the people we're fighting against. They're the same people. So I think we do have to stand with the larger labor movement, to really get what we need. Because this is a capitalist system, and we don't have, unfortunately, all the power. We just have our labor, which without anything without it, then no wealth is created. So that's just all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Johnny. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I just wanted to Yeah, respond to Javier in the chat saying, both the Democrats and Republicans like are not working in our interests. They totally, worked together in unison to sell out the railroad workers last year. I mean, we all saw that. And then we see these various politicians trying to come onto the scene for our contract and say that they care about the working class and they care about our fight. So yeah, I really agree. I think we need to see through that and see that they're not here for us. I will pass it off now to Maya.
Hello, yes, this has been a very fruitful discussion. I guess one thing I wanted to bring up that I think needs to be emphasized and maybe hasn't been emphasized enough, in the wider media, has been the fact that, this historic strike has been completely averted. And it seems like it's pretty easy to lose sight of that. We've all been kind of sucked into the day-to-day contract fight and sucked into reading the language, trying to talk to our coworkers, and that's pretty much been going on as soon as the announcement was made that an agreement had been reached. And maybe this is an obvious point, but I do want to emphasize that we don't lose sight of the fact that a massive strike was averted, a massive strike that could have really brought the company to its knees, that would have had the shareholders crying, that would have had Biden panicking, one that would have really been able to win us a strong contract. And I think the very fact that the strike was averted actually gives us a sense of the fact that no contract negotiations are really just a matter of a back and forth debate between union leaders and companies. I don't know if people here saw, but the New York City retirement systems, their main investment advisor, put out a public statement urging that UPS just settle the contract at the table already. And I know that they weren't the only shareholder to say that. I think we all can imagine that there were many phone calls that were made and much of their input that was put into the situation, their desire to not see a strike, etc. I mean, Biden, of course, had an interest in putting a cap on the strike. He already has done that. He's had his influence on the railroad strike. And Congress even, they came out with a public message to say that, they're sympathetic to our need to strike. But I mean, to me, it's no question that this was just a matter of their attempt to make themselves look like, great labor friends in order to save face and obscure the fact that they practically unanimously crushed the strike for rail. And so I don't know, there's just all these different examples that I think really show us wow, okay, we're in this wider society where this contract negotiations were influenced by these other forces. And given the fact that, a lot of us here are here because we think that we could fight for more and that this contract wasn't enough. I think it for one says that strike is necessary. Do I think that's going to be what happens even if we're able to vote this thing down? No. Do I think it should have been what happened? Absolutely. But I also think for two, it shows us, who are the real forces that are stacked up against us. And it also shows us, we need to develop our strength. For one, as an organization of, people within this union, people that are really fighting to see this union be a fighting organization, to employ the use of the strike as their weapon and not to shy away from it. To be proud of that, to make us the determining force in being able to bring a company to its knees, to make the shareholders cry, to make the politicians frantically scramble around. And, that's what we need to do. And along with what other people have been saying, there's a desperate need to go further too, for workers to be able to be organized and to fight for, a true position of power that we don't have right now. I mean, so long as we don't, we can't fundamentally change this oppressive economy that generates companies like UPS that create these conditions of harassment and wages that never seem to catch up with the cost of living that we're all talking about. And if we ever want to see a society where we can put a freaking knife in our misery completely and to be able to end the consistent perpetuation of these horrible working conditions, you know, difficulty getting by, paying for goods that are necessary for us to live, inability of anybody to pay for a house at this point, never mind rent. You know, an end to these wars that I think just end up using our people like cannon fodder, especially those that are just looking to be able to pay for college and can't get by on mom and dad's money. And honestly, you know, if we're the ones generating the wealth, we should just be able to dictate where it's going. We should be able to have a position where we're capable of actually putting that money into uplifting the whole of society. And so I think in order for us to be able to do that, that ultimately takes and necessitates that we create a workers' party, you know, and that we fight for, you know, an end to this oppressive society, that we're able to be in a position of power. And I know that maybe sounds pie in the sky. I mean, these ideas are not new. I'm not saying anything new. I fundamentally and truly believe these things. And I believe it even starts here, you know, it starts with, you know, being able to take a stand and do it in a fearless way for more in this situation when we can get more, and we all know it, and we've all been talking about it this whole night. Maybe we won't win this, you know, maybe this contract will go through. Does that mean, you know, the fight's over? Hell no, absolutely not. I mean, we've all just met each other. We're all linking up. We're all trying to get organized. We're all trying to have a major influence and play an outsized role in this union to be able to really turn it into a truly fighting force. And I know we're all a part of that wave, and this is just the beginning of that. And so I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to listen to everyone talk, and I feel inspired by what everyone has said. And it is not going to be, even if we lose, you know, in the sense that, like, even if this contract goes through, it will not have been wrong for us to have come together and tried to fight for more. Absolutely not. And we just need to keep in mind the larger picture, you know, in the more medium term of like needing to really build up the organization of ourselves. And so I hope most people on this call are down for that. And if you are, I mean, I think it's right now, Teamsters Mobilize is playing such a crucial and inspiring role in doing that. And that's why I got involved. So yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all your thoughts. And yeah, you know, just to respond to a few things in the comments, I think it is, I mean, yeah, we're talking about our vote no, but you know, that doesn't exist in a vacuum. I think it's important to talk about what are the issues that we see, how do we see them in the larger society. So right now, no one else has their hand raised. I do just want to give one last opportunity for anyone who does want to speak and who hasn't spoken yet about, yeah, what are your thoughts on the contract? What do you want to see changed? And then I'm just going to give out a few more reminders about some next steps, and then we'll wrap up. So given that a few people have now raised their hands, so let's see, I will ask Matthew to talk first, and then Ed Jones.
Hi, am I visible on this or?
Yeah, you can speak, we hear you.
Okay, so from my perspective, like I was just working at 7-Eleven and I was trying to unionize that workplace, and it was, you know, I was not successful in that, but there were like issues there that are relatable to what I hear is going on at UPS. Like we had like the heat, we had a heat issue. It was like 90 degrees inside the store and everything, and you know, I almost like, I don't know, I was having like a heart palpitation as a result of that. And like, you know, other coworkers were also complaining and whatnot. And, you know, we were just getting paid minimum wage and everything. So yeah, I got laid off from that job for organizing, but they called it they tried to say it was due to my performance and everything. Um but yeah, I think that's related to the UPS demand, like for air condition inside the trucks, like, you know, for fans even in the back of the truck. How come UPS can't afford that? And it's gonna take until January 1st of 24 for that to be implemented, you know, and meanwhile the profits are raking in at a much faster speed, thanks to the workers. And you know that really, this whole webinar tonight just really begs the question of whether the union leadership and President Biden, both parties being corrupt, the union leadership, I mean, and President Biden, um, really begs the question, you know, that we need to have a revolution where the working class overthrows the capitalist class. And, you know, so that way we have a society where people, we don't just walk outside and there's like swaths of homeless people, um, and people begging on the streets, and you know, other things that are just void of government implementation, like nationalized healthcare and national transportation. Is we really live in an unbelievable time right now, and it's very dark. And but yeah, so what others have mentioned here is that we need to build across not just UPS but Amazon. And yeah, we do also have to be mindful of what's going on with the Writers Guild strike and actors out in California, actresses as well, along with the FedEx pilots. You know, this is we make a much stronger bargaining team when industries and sectors of workers can bargain together. So yeah, we need to consider revolution for sure, and not just be you know, divided across industries and whatnot.
Thanks, Matthew, for sharing. Thanks for your solidarity. As someone who was working at 7-Eleven, power to you trying to unionize your workplace.